To what Sir Keir Starmer says, because Sir Keir Starmer clearly doesn't know anything about this Netflix show because he refers to it as a sodding documentary.
Everyone is talking about Adolescence, the series by Knowsley's own Stephen Graham and Christine Tamarco. It highlights online male radicalisation and violence against girls. The creators of the show are calling for screenings in Parliament and schools to spark change. So will the Prime Minister back this campaign to counter toxic misogyny early and give young men the role models they deserve?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Yes, and at home we are watching Adolescence with our children. I've got a
Evidently not.
14-year-old girl, and it's a very, very good documentary to watch, or drama. This violence carried out by young men, influenced by what they see online, is a real problem. It's abhorrent, and we have to tackle it. We are putting in specialist rape and sexual offences teams in every police force, doing work on the 999 calls. But this is also a matter of culture that I think it's important that across the whole House we tackle this emerging and growing problem.
Yeah, it's a problem with culture, but it's never a problem with culture when it's Pakistani grooming gangs that are raping young girls, is it? That wasn't worthy of an inquiry, but you'll set up a task force to tell young boys that they are an inherent problem by the nature of their sex, like they're some feral beast who can't help but go about smacking women. But this is the same kind of activism that we saw come about after the Post Office scandal series. Now, believe me, my heart went out to the people involved in that scandal. But no one in power was interested until it became convenient for them to jump on the latest trend and show. And I find that pathetic for one of the most prestigious and mother of all parliaments. But let's not ignore the other problem with this Netflix series. Reports suggest that the case that this series is based on, is a man called Hassan Sentamu. And Hassan Sentamu is a teenager. Well, he's not anymore, presumably. No, he will be, actually. Or maybe he's 19 now. But he was a teenager at the time who brutally murdered a 15-year-old, Eliane and Dam, in Croydon. But the show focuses on the attacker as a young white boy. Now, is that because uncomfortable truths can't be shown when they don't align with the media's preferred storytelling narrative? So instead of empty virtue signalling and convenient half-truths, they actually would rather present it like this. So my challenge to MPs would be, why don't you talk about the real issues? Why don't you talk about the Pakistani grooming gangs scandal, an inquiry into that? Why don't you talk about why there is a problem in the parts of the country with knives, and especially in London, there is stop and search targets black men, for example, because there is a gang culture in which knives are very prominent. But for saying that, you get accused of racism. The police get accused of racism all the time. But address the issues of why young men feel so hopeless, be they black or white. The fatherless home issue is a real problem for those black or white, especially if they're working class. Stop treating masculinity like it's a disease. Because if we keep ignoring these realities, you're only going to see more young men that feel utterly lost, despair, and pursue a life of hedonism or criminality. But why bother with all of that, I guess? Why bother, says Labour, when you can just watch a Netflix show, ask the Prime Minister a question, get a reply about some documentary he's been watching with his kids, no idea what that was, and pretend you've done something useful. Yeah, sorted. You fixed it. You fixed the nation's issues. Thank you very, very much. Honestly, I just despair.